Hey all, P here. Um, Rainy Friday morning before work today, getting ready to start seeing clients. Thankfully, it's my last day of seeing clients from home using the internet for a while, so I get to be back in my office next week. I wanted to jump in and do a video on scouting, and I'll do more videos on this in the future, but I this is the time of year to be out scouting, scouting locations to trap and scouting locations to predator call. I'm going to specifically talk about trapping today. When I do my predator call scouting video, I'll probably actually go out in the desert and show some things to look for in locations to make your stand. But scouting for trapping, whatever animal you're going to trap, okay, whether you're doing, canines on land or stuff in the water, there's three major questions that you want to ask yourself, okay? So now the first thing is that, this starts before you get in the truck. So I'm kind of old school. I like to get out my maps. I like to talk to people. I'll use Google Earth once in a while. Use Onyx app, but I like to look at maps and talk to people who are seeing things certain places. With water animals, you're kind of limited to waterways, that are year round. In Idaho, that's generally our rivers and lakes, sometimes coulees. Some of our canals are year round, but we only have one in southern Idaho that's year round. That's the Jay Coulee. You're really limited to waterways, and so your pre-scouting time is spent looking at waterways, that you might want to trap on maps and figuring out landowners that you need to talk to, or if it's public land, stuff like that. And then it's a matter of getting in the car and going out there and looking around. And so once you decide on a place to go, you got to get in your car and head out to these places. You can't, a lot of work for harvesting animals through trapping, predator calling, or hunting is done in the off season. You got to get out. If you spend your time in the field, if you wait till hunting season and you spend your time in the field, figuring out, well, what's over that hill? Well, what's over there? Well, wonder where this road goes. Well, then you're wasting time. Okay. One of the best seasons I had a few years ago for hunting and trapping and everything, I spent hours and hours and hours ahead of time driving around, in my Jeep, Calypso, as I call her, my Jeep, because she's my ship that takes me on adventures. So, but lots of driving around, lots of talking to people, lots of talking to landowners. And that's the time to go, well, I wonder where this road goes, and follow the road. And sometimes you get lost, and sometimes you find a really cool thing. And, I wonder where this little tributary, this little drainage leads to off this river, and follow it. And, oh, look, there's a huge pond back here, that's probably year round. Great spot for muskrats, right? So you got to spend time out looking, right? So once you're out looking, and you've looked at your maps, you've looked at landowners, you've decided on places you're going to go scout, get out there, and you're going to ask yourself three questions. You have to answer these three questions when you're scouting, okay? These are beyond what's out here, right? So going out and scouting assumes you're going to answer the question, what's out here? Because you're out there looking to see what's out there, right? You're getting a feel of the terrain. And then as you do that, you want to start thinking about three things. Number one, are the animals I want to trap out here? Are they around? And if so, kind of in what kind of numbers are we talking out here? Okay. And so, let's use coyotes as an example. You're out there looking for a place to trap coyotes. Are there coyotes around? Pretty much anywhere in Idaho, you could say, yeah, there's probably coyotes here, But how many are there resident coyotes, do I think? Are they just passing through this area? Am I seeing sign? Is there food? Is there water? Why are there coyotes here? Could that change? Are there coyotes here because there's a dairy? Are there coyotes here because there's some other food supply? Is this just a byway? You know, I have a couple places I set traps for coyotes that are just places they pass through. They're just passing through, but it always produces coyotes. It's just not as many as if there's a place where there's some resident coyotes that tend to hang out a little bit more. So anyway, just, you know, are the animals here? And if so, do I have any idea of what kind of numbers I might be looking at? Okay. All right. Second question, is it safe to trap here? And that there's a lot of little sub questions under that one, right? So first one would be, is it legal to trap here, right? Now, if you've done your homework ahead of time, you'll know who the landowner is and you'll have talked to them already, or you'll know if it's public land. And so the legality of it, you know, can be answered usually pretty quickly. But there's other safety concerns. So like, is this a public trail? I mean, we just had a bunch of stuff go through, big fight with some groups, some do-gooder groups out of Sun Valley trying to require signs next to traps on public land by public trails, which is ludicrous. And some of the stuff they were saying too, oh my God, they're like, I wish I would be able to go on a walk with my kids without having to worry about them getting killed. Getting killed by a trap. Okay. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, I'm sorry. It's just hilarious. You know, I like coyote trap, you know, this big's going to kill an 8-year-old, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so, but that being said, like, I do encourage people to be careful. Like, if there's public trails and stuff around, I don't think it's a real good idea to set by them, honestly. I mean, you can legally, and there's times that I do set in some places that other people I know would not set by. But I'm going to talk about that when I talk about trapping around farms. And there are ways you can do that without catching someone's dog or whatever. I mean, there's some really little tricks you can use and things like that that can help avoid that kind of stuff. Okay. But like if there's a main thoroughfare through there, I'd say get well off the trail if you're going to do it. You know, get well off the trail. Now, there's other places, and I'll give one example, you know, like Harrington Fork up in Unit 54. My dad and I hunted deer in that drainage a lot. You know, there's bobcats in there, there's mountain lions. You know, now there's a mountain bike trail down the bottom of it and all kinds of stuff, and all kinds of people are hitting it. And honestly, I wouldn't care in those situations because I'm like, you know what? This has been used for hunting and trapping for decades. And now just because, you know, everybody and their dog, literally and their dog wants to go up there and use it to recreate, well, fine. But we were there first. You know, so have a brain, understand that traps have always been there. Traps will always be there. Hunters have always been there. Hunters will always be there. And if you care about your dog, keep it on its damn leash if you're worried about it getting in a trap. But anyway, sorry, I digress. So is it safe, legal? And then is there, you know, I mean, if you're going onto a paved greenbelt trail where people walk and run and all this stuff, and you're trying to catch raccoons or something along it, I wouldn't recommend setting too close to the trail. You know, there are laws that keep us so far from the trail anyway, but I'd get further off the trail, right? The other safety thing to ask yourself is, are people going to steal my shit? You know, that's the only way I have to say it. Are people going to steal my shit? Because, you know, I mean, there are lots of places that have a lot of coyotes that I would like to trap, but I don't because someone's going to see a coyote in my trap and they're going to shoot the coyote and take my trap and the coyote. Because I like to think that hunters and trappers and everybody are all on the same side, but there are dirt bags everywhere in every profession and in every hobby. All right. My parents were both teachers. They were good teachers, but there are a lot of shitty teachers. I'm a Catholic. I've worked for the Catholic Church for a long time. I've known a lot of good priests. Obviously, though, there are some shitty priests. I'm a counselor. There are a lot of good counselors. There are a lot of shitty counselors. There are good and bad people everywhere, in every organization, in every social group, in every profession, in every church, in every political party. I think they kind of congregate in political parties. But anyway, And so, you know, just because it's like, oh, well, there's only hunters up here, so my traps will be safe. No, they won't. No, they won't. So that's a consideration you have to make is, you know, are people going to steal my shit? Right? So when it comes to safety, is it safe? First, is it legal? Two, is it ethical? I should say. You know, like, okay, like, am I being reasonable with my traps here to protect non-target catches of stuff? You know, including people's dogs and stuff like that. And then three, you know, is it safe in the sense of, is my equipment going to be safe? How much of my equipment am I potentially going to lose setting here? And I'm okay with losing 1 or 2 traps a year. Kind of chalk that up, that people stealing shit, you know, that happens. Mostly I'm on private land, so it's not a huge issue, but once in a while somebody might see something from the road and come over and whatever. But anyway, so that's the second question. And then the third question is it feasible to trap here? So I have some great spots for coyotes, man. And there's some spots I'd love to trap bobcats. But if we get snow dumped on us, I'm not gonna be able to get back there in Calypso in my Jeep. She does good on snow and mud and stuff, but when it starts to get real deep, you know, my Jeep's so light, then unless I'm willing to chain up every time, which I'm not willing to do, it's just too much work. You know, if I had a snowmobile, you know, then it'd be one thing, but so you just got to ask yourself, you know, is this feasible? So is it feasible in bad weather? Am I able to get back there? And then even walking, like I trapped a spot last year that was quite a hike to get to, which was really weird because it was literally it was this coulee in the middle of farmland, but it was a pretty substantial walk every time to go check stuff. And I only pulled a couple coyotes out of this spot. And it's just like this next year, I don't think I'm going to do that spot because it was just like all that walking and setting and all that stuff for just a couple coyotes. And one of them wasn't even that great of a coyote. I don't think it's feasible to do that spot again. You know, so I can catch those same coyotes a mile down the road at a different location with less work. So, you know, there's a lot of good spots I know out especially in the deserts and in the foothills, they're like full of coyotes, but, you know, maybe trap them earlier in the year or something, but have my traps out of there when the weather starts to get bad. So those are the three things you ask yourself. You know, one, are there animals here, right? Looking for sign, looking for dens, you know, muskrat. If you're looking for muskrats, looking for muskrat crap on the rocks, looking for muskrat houses if it's a marsh, muskrat burrows if it's a creek or river, you know, beaver sign, beaver houses, tracks in the mud, mink tracks in the mud, muskrat traps in the mud, otter tracks in the mud. If it's a waterway and there's any kind of cover along it, there will be raccoons, you know, so you'll see the sign, but you almost don't have to. But, you know, but are the animals here? Okay. And in what numbers? 2, is it safe to trap here? In other words, is it legal? Is it ethical? Right? And is it feasible? You know, or not, sorry, is it legal? Is it ethical? And how much of my shit's going to get stolen? Okay. And number 3 is it feasible? Like, can I easily access this area? So like this animal control job I'm on right now, it's May, and I shot some videos from this job. And, you know, it's some sketchy decisions that I had to make about that because, you know, there's some houses nearby and I'm trapping out on the edge of a canyon and this house is at the very end of a lane and there's not any houses real close to it, but there are houses around. So I had to ask him, I'm like, do you ever see anybody's dogs running around out here? And they're like, no, never seen anybody's dogs. I go, anybody's cats running around out here this far? And they said, no, they don't come out this far because when they do, they get eaten by something. I'm like, okay. You know, I mean, I have to kind of, you know, think about that stuff because I am setting within range of houses of someone's dog getting loose and coming out and getting caught in a trap or a snare, which I like to try to avoid, obviously. There are some precautions you can take for that stuff, which I'll talk about in another video. Different things you can do to minimize the possibility of that. But again, you got to do some homework ahead of time. You got to look at your maps, look at Google Earth, look at your Onyx app, talk to landowners, talk to people who are out in those places doing other things, ranchers, landowners, shepherds, BLM guys, firefighters are good to talk to, and then then you got to get in your 4-wheel drive and go out and look, or put your hip waders on, or no waders. Like, I don't like to use waders. You can go walk down the river, the stretch of the river you're looking at, and wade out there, look around, but and then you got to answer your 3 questions. Are there animals here? Is it safe? In other words, is it legal, ethical, and how much of my shit's going to get stolen? And finally, is it feasible? Can I get to this fairly easily? So those are some thoughts. Get out there, start looking around for places to trap this fall. Do it now. Talk to landowners now. Know where you're going to put your sets now, so that when it comes time to set, you can get them out quick, easy, efficiently. The less work, the better, because you're going to spend a lot of time in the fur shed, skinning and prepping fur. And if you're a hobby trapper like me, and you have to work during the week too, the more stuff you can do in the off season to get ready, the better off you'll be. All right. With that, remember, God is great. Guns are good. Freedom is precious. And I'll see you in my next video. Take care.